This one's called villawood. This takes out from Kelly King. Never forget where you came from. Never forget where you got your name, got your game from. If you do, you go against the laws of nature, never able to improve on the past that made you. Back then, the fence was waist high, and it encircled a complex of flats which was spread out with small parks around. Us kids would jump from one side of the other, to and fro on the fence, juggling our sense of selves, not knowing or caring what would become of us. This was the new world. The elders were flooded with uncertainty, and this would trickle down into the different ethnic families, some of whom were paralysed by having to start again. The rest of us would push on. A new fight, some new rights, and assimilation, a new hope dawning on the sunlight. We all feared the unfamiliar as the dominant crawled to understand us. I remember how as a 9-year-old I stared at those beings I never knew existed. This was 86 Villawood, proud to say I lived it. Back then, immigration was expected to expand a nation that depended on this principle in the first place. During our first journey to Old Guildford Public, people would trip over fear like cement cracks. We would lose pieces of ourselves and put each other back together with meat pie and democracy. When summer came in southwest Sydney, the sun would strip our skin and kin, turning Africa, Asia, Middle East, Eastern Europe and Central and South America into ashes. Out of this, the phoenix would rise and clash with the old world. Parents reacted by drawing silent barriers, enforced with love, shouts and belts, where each strike was a statement. Don't forget who you are, the hopes you carry. We moved here for you. Desperately trying to hold on to what they had once been. But sometimes the frustration would hide the honesty. But I could hear my mama saying to herself, yeah, we moved here for a better life. But sometimes, just sometimes, I struggle to understand why. Why? Sacrifices as a child I could never recognise. I began to lose the language of the colonisers, a language which I thought was mine, picked up another one. New discovery was jovial. I became a post-colonial, began to speak like a gringo, where my Earth's lingo hit the bogan Indio. Later on in life, the media crystallised stigma in people's mind, stigma attached to us. And we gave up our identities, nations, tribes, and the stories underneath my mother's eyes to come here. Please understand the sacrifice, my old man said. Now the fences in Villawood are so big, they hold the sorrow in, of life suspended in transit. That could have been us. Throughout the years, I witnessed generations regenerate and forget the generations that had come before them. Mists of whispers that would circulate us and then were taken by the wind. So 28 years later, I remember. Remember the breakfast lines and playroom. Remember my little cousin who never left. Remember the dumpling cheekbones of Asia, the pastiness of Eastern Europe, the smoothness of Africa, and the eyelashes of the Middle East. But most of all, I remember South America. I remember how different nations could not divide the fact that we carry Los Andes with us. Together with a sound that carries our stories. But this is only part of mine. This narrative extends with time, labels pasted on that I've erased from my mind. I was born in Chile, came here as a political refugee, became an Australian citizen, but these are all fucking constructs to me. People cannot be simplified into nations and labels when we are so much more.
Yeah!
Right.